Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, brought to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers. We are going back to an interview that I recorded with my pal Bryan Herta at the Phoenix IndyCar race in 2018. Yes, I have a ridiculous amount of podcasts sitting in the can that I've needed to produce and get out, like this one. The subject, which I thought would be fun to roll out here, the week of the Long Beach Grand Prix, home race for Bryan and home race for his son Colton, making his very first IndyCar start in Southern California, where they are from. This is about Bryan's 2002 oft-forgotten small blip on the career radar, but immensely cool Formula One test that he did with the Minardi team, the beloved minnows of Grand Prix racing. This was a chance where Bryan, through something arranged by Racer Magazine, the great Andy Halberry and such, this is a pretty cool test that was done. Front cover magazine feature done for Racer in 2012. And this is Bryan speaking about this really cool opportunity where, although he was a bit of an IndyCar veteran by that point, had actually moved into sports car racing, this is a chance for a proven, talented American to go and see how he fared. And we've rained most of the time as we get into, so it wasn't exactly a 100% flat-out test at Donington Park. So in the rain, in a V10-powered Minardi F1 car on wets, yeah, pretty cool. A lot of fun speaking about this with Bryan. Then he mentioned some of the other things, too, about getting to get up on stage and do some singing. He mentioned, actually, after we stopped recording, about being completely slagged off by Eddie Jordan, and just all manner of great stuff. So Bryan has great stories. Might seem like just kind of the cool dad, the chill dad, and IndyCar team co-owner, but he's got a lot of great stories in there. So I need to unearth some more and add a few more to the old Bryan Herta catalog here. So this is going back to 2002, Bryan Herta, the time our man, the time high-speed Herta, got a chance to test a Formula One car, and just regaling us here for about 15 minutes from the media center, actually the former media center. It's been knocked down at ISM Raceway, as they call it now, at Phoenix. So here we go with Bryan, brought to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers. So Mr. Herta, among my rather insane, obsessive racing magazine collection, I recently came across the 2002 issue of Racer with you on the cover.
Yes, November 2002.
A little bit of a leg high, kneeling on the Minardi Formula One car.
It is a little GQ-esque. Yes.
I just thought it was, I remember that test vaguely, and I didn't want to read through the whole thing and just essentially ask you all the stuff you already know or we might know. But cool chapter, cool little, I'm sure, experience in your career. How did it come to pass? Because at that time, Champ Car, kart turning into Champ Car, your career, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, Panos, ALMS. That might stand out as a weird little sidebar.
It was a weird little sidebar. And, you know, really it was Andy Halberry, who was at Racer at the time.
The great Andy Halberry.
Great Andy Halberry. And you know, I think Paul Fanner had a hand in helping to make this happen. And the idea was they wanted to create an opportunity for an American to test a current Formula One car and just talk about what, you know, the state of Formula One was like at that time, because it had been a while since there'd been an American in Formula One. I think Michael Andretti really was the last one prior to that, and I'm going back, but I think this is before Scott Speed.
Oh yeah,
in Formula One. So there's kind of like a 10-year gap since there had been an American in Formula One. So the idea kind of started off as this, hey, you know, let's have an American go over, test a Formula One car, talk about what it's about. And so when they approached me about the idea, I think they probably didn't realize how badly, when I was younger, I wanted to race in Formula One. That was like really a huge goal for me. And I tried to get into Formula 3 and tested over there and did the Formula Ford Festival with the Team USA scholarship, but I never really got the opportunity. So when they asked, do you want to go, do you want to fly to Donington and test a Formula One car, you know, is an obvious hell yes.
Herta declines Formula One test opportunity.
So, and being opportunistic, I thought, well, let's try and spin this up a little bit and see if we can't create some interest and maybe create an opportunity. At the time, I last raced in IndyCar the year prior. I was spending a year in sports cars in ALMS series with Don Panos' team. And so, it's kind of like at a bit of a crossroads. What am I going to do next? Am I going to try and go back to IndyCar? Am I going to stay in sports car? And this thing came out, and I thought, well, it's kind of crazy, but let's see if we can't make it a little more than just a test.
Sure.
And, can we get an opportunity? So, I guess you're kind of trying to take it upon ourselves to see if we could create a little energy around making it more than a test. In the end, it didn't work out. But
so the setup was Donington with Minardi, which was a beloved team, but certainly trying to fight their way forward from the rear. So you unfortunately weren't heading to Maranello to test one of Schumacher's Ferraris. But look. Big screaming, it wasn't big, but a screaming V10 engine, massive downforce. Mark Webber was getting his start in Formula One at the time. The car, the team, even the drivers. There was some talent there. What was it like stepping into that? Just your first day walking in.
It wasn't. It was daunting in a way, but then it wasn't because I didn't have a lot on the line, right? It was a really cool opportunity, but when I got there, and I sat down with Paul Stoddard, that was the first time I'd met him, and he explained his two race drivers. One was Mark Webber, the other was a Malaysian driver named Alex Yoong. At the time, he was sponsored by KL, which is the Kuala Lumpur airline. And he sat down and said, well, I just want to let you know that they're late on their payments and we're trying to decide what to do. And, I think he was feeling me out to see if I had any American sponsorship. But, of course, my ears perked right up, like where there could actually be an open seat later on this year. This was mid-season or a little past mid-season when we actually did the test.
Motorsports has a good ring to it.
So I think there were 3 Grand Prix left. It was Austria, the U.S. Grand Prix, and Japan. And so there was a little bit of light banter about the idea of, well, could we drum up a little bit of support or find a way to have me complete the last 3 races. In the end, it didn't happen. It wasn't Austria; it was Hungary.
Okay.
Hungary. In the end, it didn't. In the end, it didn't happen. And as a matter of fact, they did take Alex Yoong out of the car for Hungary, and they put Anthony Davis in, who was at that time funded by Honda.
Yes.
And they were talking about then I could come in and do the U.S. Grand Prix, being an American, and they thought they might be able to sell that. Paul Stoddard was always kind of into that kind of thing.
He was a salesman.
So it looked like that was going to happen, but when they took Alex Yoong out for the race in Hungary, I think the Malaysian government they came back and I think they either made the payments or something happened, and Alex was reinstalled into the team for the remainder of the season. Thus went my opportunity. But I did get to drive a real Formula One car on a really great track, and I got to experience it in a damp but drying track and on a dry track. And the quote that I always come back to with this, because at the time when I was driving with Panos, I was teammates with Jan Magnussen. Jan had quite a bit of experience in Formula One, and I asked him, what do you think? And he goes, Brian, as only Jan can say, I'm going to do a bad Jan Magnussen impression. But Brian, the worst Formula One car you ever drive will be the best car you ever drive.
Wow.
And he was right. He was right. I mean, and this was actually, if you recall, Mark Webber had finished, I think, 6th earlier in the year in this car. Yeah. It wasn't an uncompetitive car, and it had a lot of the driveline gearbox from the Jaguar F1 car. So it wasn't really a bad car. It lacked downforce to the bigger teams, but it was actually quite a nice car to drive, and it was an amazing experience. I'm really grateful that I, at least can say that I drove a Formula One car, and I got to see what that was like and understand or bookend that with all the other kind of cool cars I got to drive over the year.
I love the fact that while many people know you as an IndyCar driver, followed your career in kart and Champ Car and such, you're stepping into this essentially out of the Batmobile, out of, one of the coolest but also most unconventional prototypes we've seen in many years. So for you to not go from a high-powered North American open-wheel car to a European F1 car, but from this raging, naturally aspirated front-engine V8 prototype to this, it's a bit of a, I don't know if I want to say awkward vehicular transition, but I can't say that, I don't know if it would have prepared you in any way or had you at least accustomed to some quick speeds and whatnot. Do you think if you'd been making this test jump straight out of Champ Car, it would have done anything more or less for you?
No, I mean, I was really pleased with how the test went, how I performed. They had other drivers testing over the 2 days I was there. Justin Wilson was there testing. They had 2 cars there. And so, in terms of getting kind of on terms with the car, especially the biggest thing was really the tires. And I don't think anything could have prepared me for that. Was they had the groove tires at that time. And what was really interesting about that was in the medium and high speed corners, they made little or no effect to the car whatsoever. With the downforce, it felt very much like a slick shod car. But when you got into the slow corners and the downforce came off, they had no grip at all, and you'd literally just be sliding around. And so learning that kind of adaptation and that kind of really big, weird transition between slow corners and medium and fast corners was probably the biggest thing I had to adapt to. The braking and all that stuff that they talk about was more than what I was used to in any other car I'd ever driven. But you just kind of adjust your brake points, you get used to it, your neck's a little sore the next day, but you move on.
So you are testing the Formula One car, something you've always dreamt of doing. Did you allow yourself any time in the moment to have that sensation of like, wow, I don't know where this is going to go, but if nothing else, I can say that I've at least achieved one dream? Or were you too locked in?
Yeah, I went over there fully with the attitude of I'm just gonna enjoy this experience as much as I can, because it may, at the time I thought, well, maybe it could grow into something else, but there's no guarantee of that. But I knew this was going to happen, and so I just wanted to really savor that moment, and I was able to do that. I had a great time. As a matter of fact, this was part of when we tested at Donington. It was part of Minardi's Donington Days festival that they had. Said they're 2-seaters out, and so they wanted me to drive the 2-seater, but I didn't really fit in it. I wasn't really comfortable doing that, so I didn't drive the 2-seater. But I got to test the Formula One car, and Damon Hill's band was there and played, and I got to get on stage and just sing a song with Damon Hill's band, which is kind of surreal too, and another kind of Walter Mitty moment for me. So I had a really, really great time doing this, and I had a lot of good memories of that experience. It was probably the only time when I really just went to test a car just to test it, and that was really all there was. So it was really neat. And then obviously Racer did a really nice job. I didn't expect they were going to put me on the cover, and did a really cool article about it. And so, for me, it's one of those really cool memories. And I don't want to feel like there would be a hole, and I wish I'd got to start a Grand Prix one time, just to have done it, just to have been on the grid when the lights go out, all that stuff. But at least I can say I drove a proper Formula One car and got to experience and know what that really meant or what it was like.
And we were speaking earlier that your son Colton would have been about 2 at the time that you got a chance to do this. He asked the old man about the test and if he still has any contacts there that might open that up in his open wheel future.
I don't even know if he knows I did this. I don't. Like you said, he was 2. He probably has heard something about it. I think he probably knows because I actually have a model of this Minardi car at home in my office. So I've probably told him at some point that I tested that car, but it's I'm just an old guy that used to think he was fast to him. He's not really that impressed with anything I've done. So I'm just like a normal teenage kid and their parents, right? He likes to tease me about it.
That's the last question, Brian, is we haven't had much of this happening for young American talent that's really working in North America for a while. I'm not saying it hasn't happened at all, but there was a time the 90s, where Paul Tracy was over and tested with Benetton. If we look back even further, Rick Mears had a test, Willie T. Ribbs, Al Unser Jr., yourself, Scott Pruitt. There was a pretty strong tradition of, if you were showing something of potential here in North America that the Formula One team might look over out of curiosity. Does it matter anymore? Because those are big validating things. Ooh, a Formula One team said, hey, I'm going to try this guy out. Do you think that still matters in today's IndyCar, that European validation?
Not really. I mean, I think the two disciplines have grown apart so much that, I think an American could absolutely be successful in that environment, but only as much as they want and would allow it to happen. It's a little bit contrived. They can control so many things. They can control, how you run compared to your teammate. You could talk to Dario Franchitti, a whole bunch of guys that tested Formula One cars and have some really interesting stories about how it went. Michael Andretti, my partner now. It's got to be some kind of a cosmic stars aligning kind of thing where there's just a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of support behind it that's going to just push it through, and then it could happen. But I don't know how you put all those elements in place. I don't think it happens organically. I'll say that.
And that was our man, High Speed Herta. Some great stories in here. Look, we're talking about Formula One, IndyCar, sports cars, singing, Damon Hill, you name it. All kinds of great stuff. So thanks for Bryan to take some time and bring this. And, like I said, I need to come up with some more Bryan Herta storytelling moments. If you have any ideas, any favorite Bryan Herta moments, not the pass at Laguna Seca from 96. That's been discussed to absolute death. But if there are other things, other aspects of his career where you think, hey, that might be a fun story to tell, let me know. I mean, he and I just love catching up and talking about whatever. So these things happen very easily. Got an idea? Let me know. Shoot me a note on social media, and I'm sure we'll find some time. All right. I am Marshall Pruitt. This is the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, brought to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers. Thank you for listening.